Welcome back, everybody, and over to you, Christina. Thank you.
Brilliant. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Bridging the Dam with Deutsch LA. If you're looking for driving digital experiences with a headless dam, head back to the Agenda tab and click on track 2, but you're not going to want to miss this session with Bilal, so stay here with us. Make sure to send your questions on the Q&A tab at any point throughout the session. And without further ado, I'd love to introduce another incredible executive, Senior Vice President, Technology Director at Deutsch LA. We've got Bilal Elreda, sorry. Over to you, Bilal.
Thank you, Christina. Hello, everybody. I'm Bilal Elreda. As Christina said, I am a Technology Director and Senior Vice President at Deutsch LA. Obviously, I reside in Los Angeles, California, and I am excited to talk about bridging the dam. I think that the title of my presentation will make a lot more sense as we dive in and kind of go over the different topics that I wanted to dive into. So just a quick overview of what I have in mind or what the agenda looks like. I've got the dam on an island. Again, a lot of this will make more sense as we dive into it. And then I've got a few bridges, a metadata bridge, a publishing bridge, a collaboration bridge. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about the dam as the gateway to our NFTs. Kind of added that in there. Obviously, NFTs are all the rage right now. I don't know if it's a bubble. I don't know if they're here to stay. But regardless, I don't think they can be ignored for brands. And I think having a workflow that enables you to be able to push these out and do some fun stuff with them makes sense. So we'll talk a little bit about that. I'll start with a little bit of background, both on myself as well as the agency that I work for. Deutsch LA works like a collection of smaller ad agencies. Each team is built around the exclusive needs of each particular client. As I said before, I'm a technology director at Deutsch. So I'm a technologist. I'm involved in, from discovery, design to delivery of technology products for different clients in our roster. So I'm very involved in all the little technology aspects of things. That means, a dam is always a part of pretty much everything I do. I've been doing this for about 12 years now, maybe more. I'm not really sure. I've done this in many different roles. I've been a developer. Obviously, I've been a junior developer. I've been a developer. I've worked with, worked my way to where I am today, where now I manage streams of work and technology teams, and I get to deal a lot with procurement of, different platforms for different brands, as well as internal to the agency, whether that's dams, content management systems. Really, those are kind of the main two. Obviously, a lot of infrastructure to host these things, deliver content delivery pipelines and so on. So I'm really passionate about this stuff. Super appreciative and excited to speak when I got the opportunity from Henry Stewart events. It's a dam event. The first thing that came to mind for me was, okay, so what can I say about dams? Obviously, we all use them. They're there. And when I got the opportunity to speak, I thought to myself for a second, like, what would I talk about if I had to talk about dams? And really, I settled on, let me just share my experiences with them. Again, I use them a lot internally at the agency, but then because I work at an agency, I get to interface with a lot of different organizations. So I get a window into how they're used, all types of different companies from, different breadth and sizes. And so I wanted to share a little bit of that. One insight, I will start with this, and this is what, the first thing that came to mind is most dams are underutilized engines. The reason I say that, in my experience, when I see a dam in an organization, what I typically see is basically a content repository. Maybe a little bit more than a content repository, meaning that it's being used, there is a dam, for the most part, and this does not apply to everybody, obviously, but I see a lot that it just not a lot of exciting things are happening there. You know, assets move back and forth between the different departments. You know, creative team, you get a brief, you generate assets, the creative team does what they need to do kind of in their own island. Then they hand them off to somebody who maybe uploads them to the DAM. And then what strikes me most is from there, when you need to get these assets somewhere and make them come alive, you may download them from the DAM and deliver them to somebody, and they do something with them. So it's really, the DAM can do so much more, but yet it's mainly kind of like a content basement. Not the most organized thing, just not being used to its potential. So that is the key insight for me. And again, your experience might be different, but that's, you know, I see this over and over and over. And I wanted to share some simple things that I think would make life so much better for everybody involved in delivery of digital content. So let's get into it a little bit. I like memes, so I'm using oldie but goodie here. Galaxy brain meme. So kind of four stages. But the most basic level, you procure a DAM, you have a DAM, great, you're sort of ahead of the curve, but at the same time, it's sort of table stakes today. That's great that you have a DAM. Maybe you're using it as for asset storage, maybe a little bit more. I mean, obviously, when you upload an asset to the DAM, it's going to do some magic out of the box. It's going to extract some metadata. It's going to give you some searchability functions and so on. So, I mean, that's great, but table stakes. I think on top of that, you got metadata management. I think that's a really powerful and underutilized piece of the DAM. Its capability to overlay your assets with all types of data. Of course, Facebook has hijacked the word meta because it's great, but you know, you want to hydrate your assets with relevant data. And oftentimes what I see in DAMs is maybe the automatic extraction of data. That's great. And I would say at the most, I see that it's used a lot for internal purposes to the DAM. So like, for example, to be able to find your assets or to be able to categorize them internal to the DAM, or to be able to just do things with them to manage, to manage them and, you know, just kind of have them come alive within the DAM. Great. There's a whole other side to it, and that is actually exposing this metadata and having it do all types of magic when it comes to actual content delivery and consumption by end user, creating great experiences, and just making your life way, way, way easier. So that kind of, you're at stage 2 if you're doing that. Publish workflows. Again, your experience might be different, but one thing that I find a lot is maybe there is one published workflow, you know, particularly if your DAM is integrated with your CMS and maybe you're publishing content out to your website. But then if you need to, you know, use these assets for maybe a social campaign, or you know, you're gonna feed your ad, you know, ads that you might be running, or maybe you want to feed your mobile application, or maybe you want to feed traditional print or whatnot. There is no real published workflow for those things. I just see a lot of the out-of-the-box stuff gets used, but it doesn't really get extended too much from there. But having published workflows that kind of drive you end to end, great, you're like a step above. But for me personally, the one that takes you to galaxy brain status is obviously if you're doing all the other 3, but then you're also enabling collaboration in your DAM, meaning your whole process from the creative ingestion of assets to reviews to delivery to, in my case, say a technologist or a technology team who's then going to deliver these assets, all happens through your DAM with workflows, with touch points in the DAM. If I go, you know, if we hit the weekend and we're coming back and it's a long weekend, I don't have to go dive into my email or Slack or my file system to try and find these files. It's all there. And when it comes time to publish them, I press a button and it's done. It's all about, you know, we're all busy, especially now that we've gotten into work from home, work seeps into like your personal life and all this. Like, we need to build systems that allow us to collaborate efficiently and allow us to deliver. I mean, everything is obviously everything is digital, you know, the majority of what we do, and it's gonna keep getting more and more and more overwhelming. We need to have systems that allow us to do this in a way that just kind of frees up bandwidth in our mind to do other things. So the 4 stages, and I'm gonna keep revisiting these as we kind of move along here. So I'm gonna start with the DAM on an island. This is the kind of the traditional use case that I see. And again, I see this a lot. At Deutsch, we have a lot of different ways for collaborating with digital assets because it's a lot of what we do. So there's a lot of things I've learned from just watching the teams internally at the agency collaborate using the DAM. And oftentimes, I don't see these same processes extend to a lot of the brands that we work with. And we try to, we do our best to enable these workflows, but I just want to share the simple things that I think will make life better for everybody. So the DAM strictly as a content repository and an island is a lot of what I see. Metadata, what metadata? I mean, again, maybe some automatic extraction that happens, but ideally you build some more robust things that you can do with the data. Perhaps you have multiple disparate DAMs in the organization, meaning, you're not using one DAM, you're using maybe 2 or 3. And this happens because your creative team may be using a DAM for collaboration, and then your website is using a DAM for, hosting the assets that ultimately feed your website. And then you maybe have some other DAM that maybe a few people know about. They're not interconnected, they're not talking to. It's fine to have multiple. It's better if you can sort of centralize and standardize processes around the DAM that you've picked, you've procured, you've put time and effort into. But even if you have multiple, you can still, via integrations, kind of, where one ends, the other begins, and they automate data feeds to each other. No publishing workflows, no collaboration workflows. So basically, you have a DAM sitting out there doing nothing. So I want to dive into how you bridge that. How do you create bridges to this DAM so that it actually comes alive? So one of the key insights, and might be one of the most important ones of my whole presentation, really, the DAM should capture your business domain. We all know the process of procuring a new system or platform for your organization. It's a whole process. You get pitched, you get vendors pitching you different, platforms. There's typically 2 main ones or 3 main ones that I'm involved in, and I'm gonna use one as a sample that probably most of us are familiar with, as a sample model of what the DAM should kind of look like when you do it. So you go through the process, comparison matrices, different organizations pitching you their product. They're all great out of the box. They do all these things. The DAM typically is going to have a few things that are key. How it stores the asset, how it's hosted. The workflow engine is probably one of the key pieces of the puzzle here. It's heavily underutilized. It can do so much, but yet just kind of stays there. But it has a workflow engine, and then it's got like these publishing workflows and all the data management, search capabilities, and so on. So you get sold and you pick a DAM, and then you deploy it in your organization, maybe add a couple of workflows, and then that's kind of where it ends. I'm going to draw a parallel to another system that typically goes through a very similar procurement process, and that is content management systems. I love them. I use them a lot. You can do so much magic with them. But a content management system is very similar to a DAM. You go through the whole process. They're great out of the box. But if you ended your process of getting a content management system into your organization at just deploying it, you're not really going to have a website. You're definitely not going to want to use the templates that come out of the box. I mean, maybe if you extend them, but you're not, like just getting a super engine, a content management system that may cost you, millions of dollars, or maybe it's open source. It really doesn't matter. But you're going to, from there, you want this content management system to capture your business domain. So you typically go through the process of, requirements gathering, discovery, strategy, UX, design, development. You build your template, your components, your authoring tools, and you end up with a beautiful website that you can easily deploy content to. And that is a successful content management system implementation. The DAM is a very similar tool. You procure the DAM, you get it. If you end there, you've basically, not really unlocked the power of what you've gotten into your organization. The DAM should capture your business domain in a very similar way that a content management system does, in my opinion. And that, I feel like that's the biggest miss that I see. It typically doesn't. The workflows are extensible. You can build custom steps in your workflows that integrate in ways that your imagination is the barrier, like build anything you need to build. You want your DAM to capture your domain language for your organization. For example, at Deutsch, we call the project management arm of the organization the production department. Other places, may call it the project management department. Your DAM should reflect this. When you send things for approval, they're going to departments that have names that make sense to everyone involved. Your assets get naming conventions automatically. I mean, talk about naming conventions. I see all types of naming conventions. Sometimes, so you want things to, you want to build a system where at the point that you ingest data into your DAM, things are happening that are in accordance to how you run your business. That makes it a no-brainer. You don't have to really think about this too much anymore. And it takes a little bit of work up front. So you want to capture your business domain there. Another one that's big for the DAM, your creative team may be using Figma or Adobe XD or Photoshop or any other tool. It really doesn't matter. You want to create integrations so that your creative team can churn out assets that go into your DAM, trigger an approval workflow that, that's the only email people should be receiving is, hey, you have, a link to your DAM to go and, approve it or review it or send it back. Instead, what I see a lot is you end up with a situation where, somebody sends you an email or maybe sends you a file through Slack to review it, and then they manually. So basically, you wanna go through the procurement process for your DAM, and then you want to take the exercise of actually building the tooling on top of it that is going to enable your business to do the things that you want it to do. So are we there yet? Not really. And I realized I knew this was going to happen. I'm going to try to keep it simple. Like one slide can take forever. So I'm going to try to kind of sail through the agenda that I've set out for this as best as I can. So asset storage, metadata management, published workflows coverage. We're not there yet. We're still at the asset storage phase. We talked about building the layer on top that is going to enable your business to do the things that you want it to do. So first bridge, metadata bridge. And this is a lot. I think it goes from, and I like to keep things simple because obviously there's infinite things and infinite differences between organizations and how, different entities like to run their business. But I think that's really kind of four main things. You want to capture your taxonomy, how you categorize things. You want to have a tagging system in place so that, tags, you can create them on the fly, but you want some sort of standardization across what you're doing so that things fall into buckets that make sense for your organization. You want to define content types. And I'll dive a little bit more into what I mean by that. Like an image is great, or a PDF, and that's a very generic content type, and you're going to need to use it. But you're also going to have more specific content types to your business domain. So you want to capture those in your DAM. And then you want to define metadata schemas for everything so that, you are able to feed the DAM with all the data necessary for you to be able to navigate it as it grows and grows and grows, and the amount of data grows within it. But you also want to be able to expose this data to systems that are consuming assets from this DAM, which is kind of the ultimate goal is, content types. One example, again, another meme. I love memes. Old one, I don't know. The old ones seem to speak to me. But PDF, great. But like in the case, for example, we do a lot of work for the Almond Board of California. Position report is more in line with their domain language. When I upload a PDF that actually is a position report and I upload it as a position report content type, it comes along with a metadata schema that feeds it all the data that it needs, which then feeds the website and apps that consume this data. So kind of define those. Image, great, but maybe that's not what you want. Masthead image, it feeds the masthead on your website, for example, and it carries all the relevant data. So these are just a couple of very simple examples of facets of data that you want to define. And I think the metadata, kind of, as I've been alluding to, it does two things. It feeds internally to your DAM so that you can search, categorize, manage access and usage rights for your different assets. But then it also feeds external things that tie into your business domain more. For example, the component type that consumes this image, attributes like product line, size, color, brief, etc. And search, maybe it's powering, the search for your website or in your app. So you want to make sure you have all those requirements captured within your DAM so that you can actually, have that bridge available to you. This is just a very simple form that you'll see where you've got different data fields. It's to give a face to what we're talking about. Really, it ends up being forms, and this can be data that's automatically extracted, manually fed, maybe an API feeds. It really doesn't matter because you're going to create all these integrations to do what you need it to do. This is an example of a component to give a face to what a component would look like. Say I go and I upload a PDF file that is of type position report, or whatever it happens to be. A few details from the metadata feed the website. For example, the PDF has a cover image, so the image is a piece of metadata for the PDF file. The content type gets automatically extracted. Obviously, it's a PDF. The title is managed in the DAM, so I was able to extract it. So when I publish this PDF out to my website, all the data that it has within it already fed the component, and I didn't have to really worry about it. I don't have to keep duplicating everything. So it's all about, that's don't repeat yourself. It would be in another world, if you don't, if you're just using the DAM to hold the PDF, well, somebody would have to go and download the PDF, send it to the technology team by email, maybe send the data in a Word document, like what's the title and everything else, all the other details that are going to be. And maybe I'll take the file and manually upload it to, the web server and go into the content management system and fill out all the details. And then maybe you're going to put this file also in your app, so somebody goes and repeats that again. All of this can be automated via your DAM if you build the right tooling. So we've talked about metadata management, great. And I realize, looking at the time, I'm rambling, so I'm gonna try to swift through the next ones really quick. And I'm kind of, in a way, touching on a lot of these in parallel, So let's talk about the publishing bridge. Ideally, when you upload an asset, for example, a masthead image, you have a workflow that creates all the different renditions of this image that are needed. Meaning, different sizes. Maybe you have a thumbnail, maybe you have, a masthead, and maybe you're going to use the component on a two-up or a tout, or maybe it's going to be used on mobile and so on. So when you upload the asset, generates everything, has all the correct file names, metadata is fed, and it's able to feed all of your different content channels. You should be able to publish content to different environments. I mean, maybe you typically going to preview this on a staging environment before you take it to production. So you should have those hooks in place, obviously. And then publish content to different channels. You want to have the ability to publish the content to, whether it's your mobile app or your website or your social channels. And even if the end result, for example, if you're going to publish to, you're going to feed an ad campaign, and maybe you don't have all the hooks necessary to automatically have them go to the different platforms that you're using to run your ads. That's okay. At the most basic level, you should have the ability to press a button and it generates what you need along with all the data that you need. Even if it's not automatically publishing them, it's giving you that end result. And if you ever go back and edit these assets, the process of generating them again is super simple because it's the press of a button. This is just, the collaboration that happens up front. Really ends, you feed the metadata, you get approval, you have revisions, maybe you have some connectors in place, you do some transformation on the data, obviously there's archival, and then ultimately you have a workflow that publishes out to your mobile, web, generate assets for print, maybe to social channels and even TV. Your DAM is as powerful as you want it to be. And, one image, multiple devices. A lot of DAMs are enabling really interesting features, and I don't really want to speak too much about specifics of a particular DAM or whatnot, because that's not the point here. But it's AI recognition, like is it in frame? Is it in frame when you have it, across different devices and so on. So, enabling that in your DAM is obviously going to be a key to success. So, asset storage, we have metadata, we have published workflows, but really the holy grail is collaboration. So talk about collaboration really quick. And we've kind of talked about this a lot, but I think there's three main things in my mind when it comes to collaboration and where the DAM fits into the picture here. The content creation piece, you want all of your creatives to have a bridge into the DAM. The governance workflows, all the approvals and everything else is happening through your DAM. Any emails or Slack messages that go out ultimately lead back to your DAM, and then your publishing workflows. All these three together give you, this full end-to-end process. Asset creation on the left, manage, organize, and process everything, and be able to share and distribute to your different channels. This is a simple example of a collaboration workflow. It starts outside with the project managers, perhaps. You get an asset campaign brief, you get an asset request, goes through the ideation, creation, and the review. The creative team does their thing, goes up back for approval. You get all the approvals, get the final assets, you get the content, push it out, and then you've executed your campaign. All of this happened through your DAM. And the beauty of this is every step along the way, everything's been cataloged in your DAM, everything's been published out from your DAM. And if you ever have to go back and make a revision, it's just a repetition of this process. You don't have to go hunting down things in emails and Slack and so on. It's all just automated, black boxed in your system that you've created, captures your business domain, and allows you to do what you need to do. So that's Galaxy Brain, just having this end-to-end workflow, So I'm gonna spend just a few minutes talking about. I know I think I'm at time. I don't know if I want to leave some time for questions here. Christina,
well, you can carry on a bit longer. You're the last session of the day, so we have a bit of extra time. So carry on. This is really great.
Thank you. Sorry about that. I knew I was gonna run over, but I'll just. So it's a little bit of window. I love this space. I love what's happening out there. I know there's a lot of buzz. I know we might be in a bubble. It's pretty insane. It's really difficult to navigate. I've used them both as a consumer as well as a technologist. I'm intrigued by the concept of NFTs, but there's a little bit of a conflation of topics, I think, when it comes to NFTs. An NFT stands for non-fungible token. It's going to run on some blockchain. It's going to run on some blockchain, whether that's Ethereum, a layer 2 of Ethereum, Stacks, Polygon, Solana. I think those are kind of the three-way ones. I don't really want to go through it. Each one of these is basically a system of record that runs, and some of them have different spectrums of whatever decentralization, metrics you want to put around them. And you have to use the native token for the platform. So like if you're using Ethereum, you're going to have to use Ether and so on. And it's not so much of focusing on that. At the end of the day, you end up generating it's two things. It's a contract, and the contract has some tokens that belong to it. And the interplay of these two ends up unlocking some really interesting opportunities. Now, a lot of people think of NFTs as these little images that we see here to the right. And the image that you see to the right is really just an attribute of the NFT. Don't know exactly how this came to be. I think it kind of started with color coins back early days on the Bitcoin blockchain. Basically, they wanted to give a face to tokens, and so from there, people got, of course, really creative, and went on to create CryptoKitties and CryptoPunks and Bored Apes and all kinds of different things. But all it is, it's a little piece of art to give a face to a token, and the token is giving you access to something, or maybe not. Maybe it's just the art piece at the end of the day. But there's some really interesting things that get unlocked. So what are NFTs? Non-fungible tokens with some attributes, with some data, run on some blockchain, allow you to do some sort of transactional, activity. One of the beauty of this is you're going to have some sort of digital wallet. You can, if I have this little kitty right here, I can send it to my friend, and now they own it, and so on. And if they own the kitty, they can do maybe some stuff. Maybe it unlocks some things for them. It's undeniable that the NFTs play a role in culture today. So a lot of brands are jumping on them as opportunities. I think Post Malone acquired an ape recently, Steph Curry as well. I think Snoop Dogg has a punk. I don't know, just so they play a role in culture. It's undeniable. I think brands may want to play a little bit in that arena. A few interesting use cases that I've seen. They can serve as royalty programs. You transact with your digital wallet. There's a record that you've transacted, and then based on that, maybe if you're an owner of the ape, you can after X transactions, maybe you get a new NFT, not a new NFT, a new piece of art, or maybe a new token or something that unlocks access to something else. Imagination is the barrier. Subscriptions, it could be the key to a subscription. Whoever owns the token has a subscription, lifetime subscription to some service. Totally feasible, super interesting. And then novel crowdfunding mechanism. I recently saw a company that wanted to get funding for their project. And what they did is they released 10,000 generative art NFTs, put them up for sale. They sold out. They raised a good amount of capital for their project. And again, imagination is your barrier there. But one thing, where does the DAM come into play here? If we think about everything I was talking about, kind of going back to our meme, asset storage, metadata, publishing workflows, and collaboration, if you're taking on a large scale art NFT project, or, you're going to need to manage assets, you're going to need to manage metadata, you're going to need to publish this somewhere, and you're going to need to create. So you want your DAM is the gateway to this process if you really want to do it right. I mean, you could use old school file systems and email and Slack and go crazy trying to manage the project, and it's not going to have longevity. Or you can leverage a DAM to kind of help you out with this process. So I think that's the role that the DAM is going to play in your NFT project. It plays the same role that it plays in your organization for being the gateway to managing, hydrating, and publishing assets. So you're going to want to store and manage asset renditions. You're going to want to define and publish metadata for your NFTs. You're going to want to use the collaboration workflow and reviews. It's just like any other project where you're generating assets. You're going to go through that whole process. And you're going to want a custom publishing workflow. I mean, where are these assets going to live at the end of the day? That matters. Here's a really simple example. At the most basic level, this is what you need for your NFT. You're going to need a name, a description, and an image. Super straightforward. Here's a little bit more data. Here's a little NFT, and it's got a rarity rank. We want to gamify it maybe a little bit. It's got a score. It's got a background, eyes, skin, facial hair, laser, mouth, and so on. All of this data can be captured inside of your DAM when you define your metadata schemas, and then when you publish these out, or when you update them, or maybe when you create a new project, you can kind of leverage these systems that you've created. And again, the DAM is kind of your gateway to that. Lastly, and I'm not going to get too much into this, you're going to want to host them somewhere that kind of keeps them out of your hands. And IPFS, Interplanetary File System, is a good way to do it. What is it? IPFS empowers creators to build and share on the decentralized web, whether that's delivering content free from intermediary control or minting NFTs that stand the test of time. The key there in my mind is that stand the test of time. You don't want to be responsible for something you've said it runs on a decentralized network that no one controls and no one can change. And you don't want to have a situation where, a rogue publish operation changes, the image of the NFT that somebody owns, or you just don't want to be in that kind of situation. IPFS is a really good way to do that. How does it work? Think of Napster if you were around for that, or think of any torrent networks. It's very similar. It just kind of hashes the file, creates a unique hash, and from there on out, it's unchangeable. The reference in your token is always to this unique hash and kind of lives, quote unquote, forever. It's a distributed computer network, and it's not in a centralized, like it's not in an S3 bucket, for example, that you control and somebody can go and delete, that you have to continue paying fees for, and so on. Why are people using it? They want to ensure integrity of the content, and they want to host with redundancy. Last thing I'm going to say, I know I'm a little over now, is From your DAM, you can create an integration to, to IPFS so that you have a published workflow that kind of takes you end to end for the whole process and make your life easier. Anyway, that was a lot. I will open it up for questions. I hope I kept it as focused as I can. I was a little bit all over the place, like always. My mind just like jumps from one place to the other, but I hope there were some gems there that can help you.
Oh, thank you so much, Bilal. That was brilliant. And we can really tell you've got that creative mind. I love it. And I think there's enough here for several different sessions. So we won't get too much into questions about the NFTs, but I'd love to hear from the audience if you want to hear more about DAM and NFTs and how those two things mesh together. Put some comments in the messages, and maybe this is a session we can expand on another time. All right, so a couple questions before we wrap up. So a question from the audience, how far do you think that automation should go in a DAM or could go in a DAM?
I think that's a really good question, because I think there is a delicate balance that you want to strike. If you do too much, maybe it kind of, ends up being an overinvestment, and maybe it ties your hands a little bit in terms of what you want to do. So I think it needs to be sort of like modular automation. For example, kind of distilling down the content ingestion process to the basics, distilling down the content publishing workflows kind of to the basics. Like, when I ingest data into the CMS, what are some of the things I would like to have? I think naming convention, I think attaching the right content types, and I think having the right metadata schemas are kind of the three main ones for me. And then on the flip side, automation for publishing the content. Again, you don't want to tie your hands too much, where if you swap out your content management system or the design of your website, now you have to do like a whole lot. So maybe just kind of exposing the assets and its data in standardized forms. So I think that discovery and ideation process that captures your business domain is going to be key to what automation pieces you put in place. And ideally, you keep them modular and small enough. That's kind of how I look at it.
Brilliant. And thinking about your little island that you showed us, it was a great picture, which made me think, oh, I could stay on that island, no problem.
Indeed.
But I love the idea that, ultimately you're going to need some food and some other things on the mainland. So build some bridges. And I'm thinking about your last bridge, which was collaboration. And I'm curious, as an advertising and creative agency, how do you manage digital assets collaboratively with other clients who might have their own DAM system?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's a really, really good question. And that is something we have to contend with a lot, obviously. Different ways. So for some of our clients, we manage their platform as well. And so we kind of are able to take it end to end. In those cases, what we try to do as much as possible is one of two things: either connect the two DAMs. So there will be, at the end of the DAM that we use for internal processes, there is automation that just feeds, and this is for long running clients that have, longer agreements with us, feeds the DAM or DAMs that they use with the right assets and data. So we create integration modules for that. That's one way. That's a one use case. There's other use cases where maybe that's overkill. So what we will do is we'll make it so that, out of our DAM, at least what we generate, the output, even if it's going to be a manual handoff of sorts, meaning the assets that get generated, there's some rhyme or reason to how they get named. There's some rhyme or reason to the data that comes out. And there's some methodology for being able to either deliver it to the team that's managing, or for us to, help them ingest it. So those are two key ways. It is yet another bridge that you have to build. And it depends on a client by client or a case by case basis.
Yeah, fabulous. All right. Well, we're getting some comments that people do want a dedicated session to NFTs. So we'll have to make that happen another time. So thank you so much, Bilal, for sharing the stories with us and telling us about your experience.
For sure. I hope it's helpful. I just, that was my key intent, was here's my experience. So I hope it helps you out there, even if it's 1 or 2 gems.
Very much so. And I'm sure that you'd be getting a huge round of applause right now if we were in person. So next time it'll be in person as well.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for attending DAM for the new age of great digital experience for 2021. If you were able to join us for the opening of the conference today, you would have seen the Wizard of Oz clip that I showed you, which has the theme of pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. I hope the incredible sessions you've seen today have allowed us to pull back that curtain on digital experiences and show you how an integrated content ecosystem with DAM as the heartbeat can power the engine of digital experience. So we've mixed all the metaphors into one there. So thank you so much for joining today. And for anyone, if you missed any of the sessions, you can go and check out the session recordings through the agenda tab. Thank you for spending your time with us today. And I'm so glad that you joined. And a huge thank you to our event sponsor, Binder, for a wonderful event. We look forward to seeing you all again soon. Thanks so much.